Her and Toby have had like a little bit of a thing. Why should God just pie Toby?
Innit?
Josh, the reason I didn't pie Toby is because he didn't even come into my thoughts.
He pied you though, so I did not come in your
Yeah,
fault.
because I'm getting into his head. He ain't getting.
Your voice, please.
Sorry, but did I miss anything? Because I don't get a Liberty's delusion. I think it's becoming actually worse. The fact that she thinks she had this type of relationship with Mitch when we all saw otherwise doesn't make sense to me. The fact that she thinks, oh, she and Mitch were this, lovey-dovey couple, they really felt each other and Mitch played her, and it's like, Mitch has always been Mitch. You knew who he was before you coupled up with him, and so for you to try and play his victim doesn't make sense. And Georgia S, oh my god, I'm here for Toby yelling at her and telling her to shut up. Really, I really am, because it wasn't necessary. Anyway, hey there, thanks for stopping by. I digress. It's your girl Valerie. In this episode, I'll be reviewing Love Island All Stars UK, season 1, episode 13. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, click the like button, and turn on the notification bell for when I upload new videos. I am the last person to be defending Mitch, but I'm sorry, but I don't have any empathy for Liberty. She is dancing on my last nerve. She is joining Chris in the group of people that dances on my nerves. The fact that she's decided to make herself Mitch's victim doesn't make sense to me, because Mitch pulls her for a chat just to say to her, I want to get to know Georgia H, so I will be pulling her for more chats. I didn't want to be awkward or be inconsiderate by just pulling her without having a conversation with you. And so for Liberty to say, oh, I'm going to put myself first because it seems you wanted someone who was all for you, I was all for you, and you didn't appreciate that. So, and it's like, yeah, you can be all for a guy, but if he's not feeling you, then move on. It's not his fault that he doesn't feel you. What do you want to do? Do you want him to continue to string you along and pretend that he really likes you when he doesn't? I don't get what this girl doesn't learn or doesn't see about her behaviors, because this is the same behavior she had with Callum in the villa and the way she was chasing Johnny in the villa on Love Island Games, and she's just repackaged it and brought it to Love Island All Stars. And it's like, seriously, don't you have another playbook? I don't get why she's crying. Mitch never. Yes, at the start he told her she was his number one, but Mitch, we all know, will tell you what you want to hear. And then the moment she heard that Demi was his number one, she should have moved on. But no, she was very delusional. She kept going and telling herself that Mitch really liked her, irregardless of whatever else was going on around him. And now she's crying. Why is she crying? Why is she crying? I don't get it. I don't get why she wants to be a victim, why she feels like Mitch has abandoned her. Mitch was never really that into her. We all could see it, unless I'm the only one. So I don't get why she's crying, and I don't get why I need some time. For what? For what? Mitch is messy, yes, but in this, Mitch is right. I'm sorry. Liberty needs to put on her big girl panties and move on with life. She can't continue to chase boys that are not interested in her, because now she's talking about Chris and she's talking about Toby. Why? So Mitch then pulls Georgia H for a chat. They have a conversation and he explains, I still want to get to know you. And she appreciates the fact that he spoke to Liberty before he pulled her. So that shows that he's really serious and he's not being messy Mitch as usual. And so after that conversation, I don't see what Georgia H sees in Mitch, apart from the fact that maybe she thinks she might get more airtime with Mitch as compared to with Anton. Anton, I don't think she's feeling him. I think she has treated Anton worse than Mitch has treated Liberty, in my opinion, because Anton has made it known that he really likes her and she's played along with him and she's told him that she's really in this, whereas Mitch has shown, or he has said things that have told Liberty before now that he's not really feeling her that way. Anyway, the two Georgias sit down for a chat and they're sort of having a conversation with Georgia H saying about the fact that Mitch has said he wants to get to know her and he's spoken to Liberty, but she feels some type of way. And now they feel like the bad girls of the villa because they are taking other girls' guys. And for Georgia S to bring up the stuff about Tom, she is obsessed with Tom. She and Liberty deserve to be in the same crew, the delusional team, because they see a guy, they like a guy, and they zone in on him until he says yes or no. And it's like, why can't you just say, okay, I'm interested in you, take a step back, see what he says, and then if he is interested in you, he'll let you know. If not, keep it moving. So you have Sophie and Josh sit down for a conversation. You know, they're talking about the fact that Sophie is very touchy-feely, and it seems Josh is really enjoying it. I'm surprised that Josh, given the fact that when he came into the villa, he was pushing Toby and telling Toby, "You're not closed off, you're not wifed off. Why are you not exploring connections with other people?" And suddenly he has a connection with Sophie, and he stopped pursuing everybody else, and yet he sort of pushed Toby to step away from his connection with Georgia S. That doesn't make sense. You then have all the islanders go up to get ready for the night, and you have Toby and Chris have a conversation, with Toby sort of asking Chris to say, "Can you look after, Kaz, because she's really having a tough day?" And Chris was asking, "Oh, is it about the date?" And it's like, yeah, it is about the date, because it seems like Tyler was telling her one thing and doing something totally different. So she is very delicate. And the sad thing is, unlike Molly or Georgia S or anybody else, Kaz doesn't have the luxury of showing her true emotions, because if she does, then they're going to be used against her, because then she's going to be told, "Oh, you're whinging, or you're moaning, or you're jealous, or you're this." So she just has to sit there and be poised. Otherwise, people will use that against her. And I think Toby's trying to shield her from doing or saying anything that she'll regret later, because he knows that, once it's recorded, it will live out in till eternity. You'll be able to see it. So I think I love this about Toby. I love this, and I love his friendship with Kaz, and the fact that he's putting her first before everything else. So you then have Josh and Sophie having a conversation, and it's like, Sophie, are you that close to Josh? I really haven't seen that connection, or what they discuss, or what they sort of like about one another. They've suddenly become a couple, and it seems they are the stronger couple of the couples in the villa. Anyway, she's telling him about the Georgia S situation, and the fact that Georgia S was saying that she doesn't see herself having sex with Callum. And it's like, why did Georgia S tell people this? Because it's not that she told Sophie only, she's also told Georgia H. And I don't think the girls really appreciate this. I think the girls feel some type of way, but they can't say anything at the end of the day, because Georgia S was involved in the Callum Molly situation, whereby they decided that they didn't want to rekindle. This was before the 16 girls. And so for her to then say that she doesn't see anything sexual with him, and she's interested in Tom, and it's like, why would you then be involved with someone who's got his ex in the villa and is possibly thinking of rekindling his connection, when you know that you're not serious about him? I didn't like that as well. So I was thinking that movie night would be a nightmare, but I think it's going to erupt before movie night. I think someone is going to tell Callum that this is what is happening. Anyway, when everybody else goes into the bedroom, you have Toby and Chris Toby pulls in Chris so that they can give Kaz a hug. I think they're really worried about her. And they can see that she's really not feeling okay. And it's really good for Toby to sort of be there and look out for Kaz. And even though she's not his romantic partner, but as his friend, to make sure she's okay, she doesn't feel isolated. She doesn't feel like, she's doing this alone. And so I could not be happier for her, and I could not, appreciate Toby more. Once the lights go out, everybody's kissing, and it's like, what is going on here? You have Callum and Georgia S kissing, and it's like, why are you kissing him if you're saying you don't see anything sexual with him? You have Molly, surprise, kissing Tom again in bed, pulling up the duvets, and it's like, Tom, I don't think Tom is it. I don't think Tom is 24 years old. Yeah, he looks older, but he's only 24 years old. I don't think he's ready for something serious, and I hope he doesn't play with Molly and then break her heart. And then, surprise, Arabella's kissing Toby, and it's like, what is going on here? What's in the water, Love Island? What's in the water? Can we start a petition to stop these debriefs? This is why I love Love Island Australia, because they don't do any of these debriefs, because it's the same old thing. The main things that were discussed. Toby spoke about, his connection with Arabella, and she confirmed that, they kissed in bed, and there's always been something there, so they're going to take it slow and see how it goes, but I don't think they'll ever take it slow. I think it's going to be hit it and quit it, but hey, it is what it is. Tyler is talking about his date and how excited he was about it. And you have Cass sort of saying she really can't express how she feels about the date because it's not fair on the two of them. And I like the fact that, you had Sophie tell her that, no, you don't need to go about it in the whole villa, but you can tell us how you're feeling. You have a right to express yourself. And it's like, I don't think so. I think if it was Georgia or anybody else, the producers would be asking her to express herself every single moment. But because it's, Cass, they will use it against her. They will use it as her being jealous of Hannah because Hannah is now in a couple with, Tyler. And then you had Josh speak about the fact that, Chris is still trying to explore a connection with Sophie. And it's like Chris will do anything for attention. I think because he knows all the other girls, yes, they were interested in him on day one, but now they've gone off him. So he's going to try and push, for Sophie, even though I don't think Sophie's going to bite, and I hope she doesn't bite. Anyway, Mitch also prepared some breakfast for Georgia H, which she said she's not a breakfast person, but she ate it because she just wants him to continue, to do these kind gestures. And Liberty felt some type of way about him making breakfast. And it's like, Liberty, please. Do you want him to bring a banner and sort of put it up there and tell you that I really don't feel you romantically, or what? You need to move on. It's time to move on. Put on your big girl panties and move on and look for another connection with somebody else. And hopefully they'll send you a person that really likes you in the villa. I don't know why Chris is still trying with Sophie. You can see she's not interested, and yet he's still continuing to put the pressure on. And it's like, are you a student in the Liberty School of Delusion? Why can't you read the room and know that this girl is really not feeling you? I know you told everybody in the morning that you're still going to continue to put pressure, but I think it's becoming creepy now. And even the conversation didn't make sense. You could tell that, Sophie was humoring him, but she really wasn't feeling him that way. And I don't know what he's not reading. I hope she treats him the same way he treated Arabella, but hey, it is what it is. You then have Tyler have a conversation with Kaz. I appreciate Kaz for telling him the truth that, you led me on. You didn't tell me the truth that you and I were done and that was it. And this is awkward because, yes, we are not in a relationship, but the fact that I dated you, to have to sit there and watch you go on a date with someone, to have to help her get ready for a date with you is not something that's great. And so I like that he apologized, and I don't know. We'll see how that plays out, but I don't get his connection with Hannah. I really don't. Maybe he sees something that we don't, but I don't see it. Hannah, it seems, is just stringing him along and saying that she's a slow burn, but I don't think she's as into him as he thinks she is. And then Mitch and Georgia S. Well, yeah, I don't know. Do I think Mitch is serious? Maybe this is the first time, because it seems Georgia S. is able to read him and understands that he doesn't like very clingy girls. And so hopefully this will work out for the two of them. But hey, I think it's more strategic on Georgia's part. I think she likes Mitch because she knows he'll keep her, in the villa a lot longer and he'll get a lot more airtime. But hey, it is what it is. And then you have Josh have this conversation with Tom. I think he was trying to suss out what Tom knew in regards to Georgia S. and what Georgia S. has been saying. And Georgia S., I think, suspected or might have overheard what they were saying. So she immediately ran and sat next to Tom and sort of kicked Josh off. And it's like, why? You're telling him that you're really attracted. I think Tom made it seem like she is putting more pressure on him than he actually is putting on her. And Josh was sort of saying to him, if you let her know that you're open, she is going to step in because it seems she really is keen on you. And it's like, she's confused. She doesn't know what she wants. I think she's just after attention. And if another guy comes, she's going to go after that guy. So whoever Molly wants is who she's going to go after. That's the impression that I get. Anyway, Kaz receives a text message to say they're going to play Snog, Marry, Pie. And it's like, here comes the drama. It's been too quiet, so the producers have decided to be messy. So the boys go up first, and first is Mitch. It was to be expected. He wasn't as messy as I expected him to be. So he kissed Georgia H, which makes sense because that's the girl that he's pursuing. He then married Hannah because he said that's his girl best in the villa. And then he pied Liberty. It made sense because he said she's been stressing him out, and it has been toxic, really. It has been toxic. So I accept what he said. Next up is Toby, and Toby surprised me because I expected Toby to kiss Arabella, but he went and kissed Molly because I think he wanted to know because he knew this was his only chance to kiss her. So he kissed her. That was good. And she seems to really like Toby. I think she has a soft spot for Toby. Do I think she has a romantic feeling? I don't know. He married Arabella Arabella, and which was cute because Arabella was starting to feel some type of way when he kissed Molly, but his speech about the marry, gave him a point in her books. And then he pied Georgia S. It made sense. And he said it was because of the way she reacted when he said she was still open. And for her to say, oh, well, I don't get where it's coming from. I said I didn't want to talk to him after he said, he wanted to explore. And it's like, girl, this is recorded. We remember you crying. We remember you throwing a fit. We remember you going on and moaning and groaning. And for you to suddenly say, oh, I got over it after half a day, that's not what we saw. Please keep quiet. Next up is Tyler. It made sense for him to kiss Hannah because he's in a couple with Hannah, so that made sense. Him marrying Kaz. I didn't quite get it, but I think he was trying to be a good sport. I think he was trying to make up for how bad it made her feel by going on the date, even though it was out of his control. And then for him to pie Liberty, it also made sense because at times Liberty, as soon as she hears something, she doesn't process it or she doesn't wait for Kaz to digest it. She just runs and attacks, Tyler. And so he was right to say, give me a moment to land and see what I've done wrong before you come on the attack. I get it that you've got your girls back, but at least give me time to digest what I'm doing. And I've always got my girls back. Yes, but make sure you are expressing your girls' feelings and not your feelings on her relationship, because at the end of the day, she is the one who's in that relationship. You can give your opinion, but your feelings don't really have any room in that relationship. And then it was Anton. Anton is a glutton for punishment because he went and he kissed Georgia H, and it's like, why? She doesn't feel you that way. Why do you keep pursuing her? He married Hannah, and it made sense because they've been very close since they coupled up in the villa, so that's it. That makes sense. And then he pied Georgia S for turning him down. And for her to sort of have a comeback and refuse to be pied didn't make sense. But hey, it is what it is. I think she's going to be crying by the end of this. It seems most of the guys are going to pie her. Next up is Callum. Callum decides to kiss Arabella. It didn't make sense for me. I don't know why he chose Arabella. Maybe he didn't want to kiss Georgia H because she's friends with Molly. So I don't get why he chose to kiss Arabella. I think it was just a statement. Arabella said he didn't open his mouth, so she didn't enjoy the kiss. I think she wanted to go full tongue. And then he decided to marry Georgia S. I think it was to make a point to Molly that, you were not it for me. She is it. And it doesn't make sense given the stuff that Georgia S has been saying about him. And then he pied Molly, and she took it like a champ. She actually stood there, with the chest up and was ready to receive it. And she didn't say anything. She actually thanked him for giving her the pie. So that was cute. I appreciate her for that. She took it better than Georgia S has been taking her pies. Next up is Tom. He decided to kiss Molly. It makes sense because he's in a couple with her and he doesn't want any of the drama. And she seemed happy. He said he was attracted to her, and this is why he wanted to kiss her. You could see that Georgia S wasn't feeling that. She had a sour face, and it's like, why? He's not in a couple with you. He's not your boyfriend, so keep it moving. He then decided to marry Georgia S, which didn't make sense because he said, when she's very loyal, when she's in a relationship with someone, she's 100% committed. And it's like, that's not how she's played it. She's been telling Callum one thing and telling you something else. And you know this for a fact because people have told you. So the idea that you'd stand there and want to, butter her up by saying that doesn't make sense. He pied Arabella because he said she's always involved in the drama, and so I get it. It makes sense. Next up is Josh. Josh kissed Arabella. It didn't make sense to me because he said she's always flirting with him, and then he married Sophie, but his speech didn't make sense, and you could tell Sophie felt some type of way because she said she's going to have words with him after the snog marry pie game because he's always following her around the villa, and yet he's got nothing to say, so that doesn't make sense to her. And so it made sense. And he pied Molly because he said she was a slow burn. She's pied him slowly, and so hey, to each their own. Last up is Chris. He decided to kiss Sophie. Anyone surprised? No. He's been following her like a dog in heat, so I'm not surprised that he kissed her. He married Kaz. It made sense because he's close friends with Kaz and is sharing a bed with Kaz, so that was sweet. And the pie, Arabella was already expecting it. I don't think it was him being nice. I think he just did it for the attention because he decided to pie himself, and it's like, Okay, it is what it is. We're not going to give him any award for saving her the pie. So next up is the girls, and first up is Georgia H. Georgia H decides to kiss Mitch, which makes sense. But she also tells him that as much as I like you, I didn't like the fact that you pied Liberty very hard, and we're going to have words, which I appreciate her for that. And then she decided to marry Anton, and she pied Josh because Josh pied her. He played with her. He said he was interested and then turned around and left her for Molly. That makes sense. Hannah is next up. She then decides to kiss Tyler while he's in a couple with her. And if she had kissed anyone else, that would have been pieing him in front of everybody because he, kissed her. She decides to marry Anton. It makes sense because they're very close friends. And for Anton to take it like a trophy, it's like, it's not really that deep. It's not really that special to, have people say they want to marry you. They're more or less friend zoning you and telling you, you're their closest friends. She pied Mitch because of how Mitch treated Liberty. Liberty allowed herself to be treated that way, so I have no empathy for her. I'm sorry. No, I don't get it. I have no empathy for her. Next up is Kaz. Kaz decides to kiss Anton because she's already kissed 5 of the guys. And it's like, who is the 5? I haven't watched other seasons, so I don't know. And then she decides to marry Toby. Am I surprised? No. Toby has really had her back. He's been her closest friend and her biggest ally in the villa. So I get her saying that and giving an amazing speech as to why she chose him. And she pied Mitch for Liberty. Okay, they're best friends, so I get it. And Kaz's reason actually made sense because she said you had a second guessing herself. I guess when he said she was his first option and then told somebody else so they were his first option, it makes sense. Arabella kissed Toby. Am I surprised? No. Toby and Arabella know each other. They know what they're busy doing in their bed. They know their past, so it makes sense they should kiss Toby. So Arabella decides to marry Josh, and that to me didn't make sense. I didn't know their friendship was that close. Apparently they have great banter and their kids would have amazing eyes, and it's like, hey, to each their own. She decides to pie Chris. Am I surprised? No. Because Chris has been horrible to her, so it makes sense that you'd want to pie him. He said, oh, we're over it. And it's like, well, she apologized to you and you still went and made, the nasty remarks. And he's like, oh, so we're over it. And it's like, well, what do you expect? You called her a game player after she apologized to you and she was ready to move on. So you have to take this pie like a champ and keep quiet, please, sir. Next up is Liberty. Liberty is delusional queen. I'm sorry. I don't like to give people names, but she is. Because she goes and she kisses Chris. And it's like, why would you kiss Chris when you know Chris is really chasing after Sophie like a dog in heat? Why would you want to open that door? And then she decides to marry Toby. It makes sense because Toby has been a very good friend to the girls in the villa. And then she decides to pie Mitch. And why Georgia S suddenly decided to, take it upon herself to make sure that there was a lot of cream didn't make sense. And I give it to Mitch for calling her out to say, you were upset when people were pieing you. Now the shoe's on the other foot. You're number one putting cream on the pies. Why? And I've got the cream. You need to keep quiet. And it's like, please shut up. I hope somebody exposes her for what she's been doing in the villa. You could tell Georgia H didn't like the fact that Mitch afterwards said, I didn't even listen to what Liberty was saying. It doesn't make sense for her to say the girl you were meant to be with. Who said you was meant to be with Liberty? Who? Is it Liberty or is it the viewers or who? She needs to move on. She needs to put on a big girl panties and sort of brush herself up and move on. She's not meant to be with Mitch, and Mitch doesn't feel her that way. She needs to learn to look for people that like her for who she is and not chase after people that are not interested in her and maybe might only have friendship vibes with her. Next up is Georgia S. So she decides to kiss Callum. I think she didn't want the drama or the beef that would come if she had kissed Tom. And she decides to marry Tom. When she kisses Callum, she gives Tom these eyes. And Tom was actually speaking to Tyler and saying, why the eyes though? Why the eyes? And Tyler's like, well, there's unfinished business on her part. Is there any on your part? And it seems Tom is been put off and is really not feeling her that way anymore. And she goes and she pies Mitch and says that's for Liberty. And it's like, why? Toby is there. He pied you. You cried in the villa. Why didn't you pie him? And I like the fact that Mitch spoke up and said it's a cop-out. You didn't want to pie Toby, so you decided to pie me. And Toby actually said it is a cop-out because why didn't you pie me? And then she started to moan and Toby was like, oh, please, your voice. More or less like your voice is annoying. And for the girl to feel some type of way. Why? They're both telling the truth. She wants to be a center of attention. She came in as a sweet, loving, and caring person, and now with time, we're seeing her true colors. So she needs to sit down somewhere, please. Sophie is feeling some type of way about what Josh said during his Mary speech, because she goes and she kisses Chris, and it's like that is just digging the knife in him, because he's already nervous that Chris is putting in a lot of pressure. Sadly, she's giving mixed signals, because Chris is now going to be like a dog in heat and is going to even increase his pace of chasing after her. She then decides to marry Josh, and her speech was okay. Given the fact that she's upset about his speech, hers was barely there, so I don't know why she's upset. And then she decides to pie Tyler. It makes sense. She said it's on behalf of Kaz. He's been giving her mixed signals, and I give it to her for pieing him, because Kaz didn't pie him, and so because Kaz said, she's trying to be respectful of his connection with Hannah and doesn't want to create any tension, and this is why she's kept quiet. So I give it to Sophie for speaking up for her girl and making sure she pies him. Last up is Molly. She kisses Tom. It makes sense. She's been kissing him in bed, so there's no reason why she shouldn't be kissing him in a game. She decides to marry Anton. Does that make sense? Not really. And then she decides to pie Callum. Does that make sense? Yes, he pied her, and he called her an ex for a reason, and she returned the favor. So I get that, and I appreciate that, and I respect that. So it was an interesting game. It's nice to see that some people didn't even get a pie at all, but hey, it is what it is. I can't wait for next episode. We'll see what happens with the backlash from the Snog Mary Pie. Anyway, thanks guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And click on the link in my video to watch my review from episode 12. Bye guys.